We've now covered just about every aspect of drawing, organizing, and compositing except for setting stroke properties. We can set stroke properties as soon as we select a drawing tool and before we actually start drawing. So grab the rectangle tool and let's have a look down here in the Properties panel. Aside from color, the first two options we have here are stroke height and stroke style. Let's have a look at the stroke style first. By default, Flash will create a solid line as a stroke. We can change this though, so let's see what our other options are. We have hairline and some other artistic strokes. The artistic ones are pretty self-explanatory. These options result in pretty much what you see in the preview. Let's have a look a little bit closer at the hairline option though. Select it and draw a rectangle. It looks just like a thin line. Select one of these strokes though and zoom in. And it still looks like a thin line. Zoom in further, and it still looks like a thin line. The thing with the hairline option is that the apparent thickness of the line doesn't change no matter how close you zoom in. Back to the Properties panel, and we can see that for hairline strokes we cannot set a stroke height, and this makes sense. Change the stroke style to solid though, and now we can set a stroke height. Drag the slider or drop in a number. Okay, moving along, let's have a look at this custom button. Hit that and we can now customize our stroke style. In the upper left we have a preview window and we can zoom in on this if we like. Below that is thickness, and we can choose from a preset or type in our own values here. We can have sharp corners on angles in the preview, but the appearance of this is influenced by some extra settings in the Properties panel, Cap and Join, and we're going to cover those in the next lesson, so we'll skip this one for right now. Up at the top we have a drop-down labeled Type. Open that and we see the same options that we saw in the Stroke Style drop-down. But this one is different. Here's where we set all of the little options for our more artistic strokes. We have all different settings for dashed, dotted, ragged, stipple, and hatched. We're not going to cover every single setting here, as most of them are pretty much straightforward. What I will do though is end this lesson with a warning about artistic stroke styles. Some of them look really cool, and you can get some pretty wild line effects. Be careful using them though. Just like so many other things in Flash, the more complex you make these, the more time it will take for your movies to download to a viewer's computer. Additionally, if you're animating anything using these, you could put excessive load on the viewer's CPU or processor and slow it down. As always, the best policy is to only use this stuff if it will really add to your project, and then test it thoroughly. After you're done with that, test it again. And that's it for this lesson. We're done with this dialog box, so let's close it and move on to the next lesson.